Today we are previewing the Cheltenham November meeting. Hello, welcome back to the latest edition of The Jump Show. No Dan overall this week. He is doing what I usually do actually when I can't make this podcast and is working for Racing TV. So good luck to him. Hope it all goes well, Dan. Pick some winners. That would be a change for once, wouldn't it? Instead, I'm joined by both Jake Price and Ash Symonds. And actually, congratulations are in order because both have been nominated for the Content Award at the Horse Racing Writer and Photographer Awards. So very well done, lads. Jake, start with you. That's a nice fillip to start the week, isn't it?
Yeah, a little added bonus, isn't it? Yeah, really nice to be recognized for obviously my work on my own account, but also this podcast as well. So yeah, absolutely buzzing. Looking forward to a nice day, and we've got my arch rival on the podcast with us this week. So we'll see who tips the most winners. That might swing it in my favor.
Oh no, oh no.
Are we going to be enemies now, Ash and Jake? Or are we going to be friends? I think for the base of the podcast, I kind of think we should be enemies. What do you reckon, Ash?
It's sort of like, United City. It's like when Peter Schmeichel went and played for City. It's sort of just like, I know I've liked you for a while, but you're now just a rival for a small stretch of time. Yeah, no, look, I'm obviously very, very honoured to have been nominated, and it's great to see Jake's nominated as well. And it's a good category. I think Stephen Derbyshire's obviously been doing some great stuff in the last year, and is it Tom Kirby has been doing the Unbridled podcast, which has gone massively well this season. So yeah, it's a really good category, and I wish all of my competitors the best of luck.
All right, mate. Lovely. Great. Let's move on, shall we, to the start of the podcast. There's loads to cover this week. We'd love to get to 200 likes. That's always a really good goal for us. And if you haven't clicked that subscribe button, please get to it. It really does help us out. So thank you in advance. Right, on we move to the performance that's been notable for any of us over the last week or weeks. I'm going to start with Jake this time. What are you going to go for this week, Jake?
Yeah, I'll keep it nice and brief because obviously we've got a lot to get through. But the horse that I thought was quite a big eye catcher was Jacob's Ladder, who made his chase debut for Gordon Elliott in one of these Irish beginners chases that seem to have loads of runners compared to the ones we have over here. That's a bit strange, isn't it? We even had the Wool Park in there as he opened up a really, really short price favourite, ended up going off 5-1. Clearly wasn't his day, but that was over a 2 mile trip, which obviously when I was looking at the race, thought would catch him out, and it ended up doing so. But Jacob's Ladder, again, a horse he probably, did his winning over 2.5 last season, won his grade three over 2.5 miles. He looks like a nice progressive horse. Chasing was always going to be his game, point to point winner, big money purchase. 2 miles and ended up catching him out. I thought that he might be able to get away with it. Sometimes these horses going over fences can be a little bit quicker, or especially if they can jump well. He did jump well, did travel into the race really well, but he came up against Irish Panther, who just is the far quicker horse, and he went away and scored quite nicely. But Jacob's Ladder, get him back up to 2.5 miles, he'll be winning chases, that's for sure.
Love it. Absolutely ruddy love it. I'm going to go with Diva Luna, actually, who incidentally ran on the day of broadcast, which is today. And she won the listed chase for mares at Bangor on D. I'm not entirely sure what happened with Joyeuse. She wasn't really at the races for much of it. Jumped okay, I thought. Whereas Diva Luna jumped really well from the front. She loves to bowl along. We saw that over hurdles. She performed to a pretty high level over the smaller obstacles. And I really like what I saw today. The way she drew clear from a couple of smart mares in behind, I thought was very taking. And interestingly enough, I don't usually put much cast on this, but the way the jockey acted as he crossed the line, he was really pleased. Like kind of like it looked almost uncharacteristically delighted with the fact that she'd done what she did in the style that she did. So I thought it was a really encouraging sign. They'd hoped for that, and she has gone and delivered. So she'd be my performance to keep on side. It's not particularly, it's not a rocket science picking her, is it? Because she's fairly obvious, but at the same time, well worth keeping on side, and she'll be tough to beat from the front this year, I think. Ash, what about you?
Yeah, I echo those thoughts about Deep Luna. She's very impressive, and I think Ben Paulin's always thought plenty of her. I'm going to Wincanton on Saturday. It may not have been sort of the greatest weekend for Paul Nicholls because obviously he had plenty of winners, but maybe some of the performances weren't as good as he probably thought with Rue and Blue King de Rue. But I thought he had a strong hold on the novice hurdle that opened the cards. Fasol beat Miss Alti Blue. I think both these horses are going to be a horse to follow for going forward. I think Fasol, he's just been sort of slow enough to come to hand, but they've always sort of tried him off nicely. They ran him in that championship final on Sundown finale day, ran an okay race, but I was quite, took an eye to the fact that he was the one that Olive Nicholls was on. In fact, he was really well backed and he won quite nicely. I think he's just going to be a horse. Like, he hasn't been put up much in the handicap for the win. He was running off 115 in the novice hurdle on the weekend. He's now 117. I just think he's going to be the horse that picks up handicap wins going forward. I don't know how he's going to be campaigning. He might just be keeping to these tracks like Wincanton and maybe going to Taunton and stuff like that, places that Nicholls likes to have winners. But I think he's just going to be a bit of an ATM machine, to be honest, going forward, because he's still lightly raced, and I think he's going to be a horse to follow going forwards.
Let's move on, shall we? I actually should have said this probably at the beginning of the show, but I'm useless. Today we are previewing the Cheltenham November meeting, and we are also talking about the Navan Racing Festival, albeit probably fairly briefly. But obviously it's a massive weekend in the National Hunt world. And on Friday at Cheltenham, we're going to start off there with the 220. It's a listed novices chase. And Jake, we've got a field declared for this one. Leave of absence, double powerful, Isaac Desobeau, one big bang, and Wade Out, who currently heads the market, which I think is probably fair.
Yeah, so I'll just start off with a bit of housekeeping. Obviously, firstly, we're recording this on the Wednesday. Unfortunately, again this week, we just obviously finding time, struggling with time here. We're down in the studio. We had to draft in Ash and all this type of stuff. So we haven't got the full decks other than for Friday at the moment. But obviously, we'll be going through the Friday races first, so that's good. The other thing is weather. Obviously, weather watch is going to be crucial this weekend. The ground is currently basically good to soft all over, other than the 2.5 mile chute in the middle of the course, which wasn't open for the October meeting. That was because it was too hard then, so it's still good ground now. I'd assume that will ease to the rest of the track once we start getting this downpour. We've had 10 mils since midnight. Currently recording. Friday is looking like it's going to be an absolute downpour. I know myself and Ash are going to be there. We better have hoods, Ash, because it's going to be wet. I was looking on BBC Weather, and there's 100% chance of rain all day until 8 o'clock. So that's quite impressive. And we're going to be getting a lot of rain. So I think by the time we get to something like the Sunday, it's going to be very testing out there, and it could be as quick as Friday that it is testing as it is. As such, it would probably dwindle my confidence a little bit in Wade Out, because Wade Out steps up in trip to 3 mile 1 furlong here. I think he is the horse to beat in terms of his form of Wendigo. Imagine the price of Wendigo would be if he was in this race. He'd be probably odds on. Obviously, Wade Out went and beat him on debut. That was obviously over 2.5, so you can probably forgive Wendigo a little bit for that. And obviously, it was only their first runs of the season. If he does make the step up in trip to 3 mile 1 furlong, I think that he'll win this. But obviously, with the amount of rain that we forecast, it just dwindles that confidence slightly. So I would be with Wade Out for obviously Sean Bowen and Ollie Murphy, but I think I'm just going to be waiting until the race just to see how everything's still going.
Yeah, there's a few caveats, aren't there, with the selections this weekend, as you say, all about the rain. I mean, it could change complexions pretty dramatically. Ash, what do you make of the race?
Yeah, I think it's very, very interesting. Wade Out, I was there when he won Worcester last time out, and Ollie Murphy, you almost felt a little bit, I don't know, not disappointed, but it's like he sort of thought he was going to lose that day to Wendigo, so he could have an eye to handicaps going forwards. It's the horse race 127. They thought it was an absolute snip at Aintree. It's why he was sent off, 10-1, well backed, and nothing really went run right for him at the national meeting. He then won. He's up £10. He can still go in handicaps. He's probably much less of a snip than he once was. I think it's very interesting, like Jake said, 3 mile 1 on the old course, going to be soft ground, really. I could probably leave him. I like him as a horse, but I really, really like to see Double Powerful in this race. They had him entered, they did have him entered for the 2.5 mile limited novice handicap chase on the Sunday. We were in a really, really big race, and then another limited novice handicap chase at the October meeting behind Zurich and Crest of Fortune. I think that race was littered with well handicapped horses. Like Crest of Fortune, I think it's going to be a very, very good horse this season. Major Fortunes dropping down the handicaps, definitely going to be winning soon for Dan Skelton. Ran a really nice race, wasn't putting it at all, and sort of stayed on nicely. This is a horse who ran behind Deep Cave at the Aintree Grand National meeting over 3 miles, and ran really, really well. Be interesting to see how he handles the ground because he had a massive break between basically Christmas time and March. So whether that was because they wanted to keep away from winter ground, I don't know. But he's won on soft ground before. He doesn't look like he's a sort of horse that needs quick ground. Whereas a lot of horses in here, like Leave of Absence, I'd have him as a good ground horse, and same for One Big Bang. So I kind of like I don't think it's an amazing race, and if you can find a way to take on Wade Out, which I have, I think it does lead to double powerful. So I would have liked to see him in the handicap of 136, but instead this is a winnable race, so we'll take him here.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about One Big Bang because he does really go on good ground. There's no doubt about that. But he's also very effective on heavy. He won on heavy
Yeah.
last year, and I think he won on soft as well last year. But basically, my point is that if it does turn into a slog, then he might be best suited to really take his chance. I imagine James Owen is going to be on weather watch with him and just leave him in there because he's entered next week, the week after, sorry, for a handicap hurdle. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just see how the weather kind of shapes up and go from there. Good stuff, lads. Let's move on to the Shloer Chase. That is the grade two on Friday. And obviously used to be on Sunday, now it's on Friday. We got John Bon, Lodu Sud, Brookie, Edwardstone, Haddocks Desabo, Liberty Hunter, and Matata. Ash, I'll come back to you to start off this one. I actually think the interesting runner here is Liberty Hunter, given how well he was going in last year's champion chase. Do you think this, though, is going to be another one for John Bon?
I hope it is, to be honest. I love the horse like so much. I think he gets pelters for his Cheltenham record kind of harshly. I
Quite
think
right.
just I just think it's like he's disappointed in the Queen Mum, but that was made a massive mistake. Disappointed in the Arkle when he was smashed up by El Fabiolo. I just think when he's been at Cheltenham, there's always been a very, very clear excuse. Like even the Supreme beaten by a very, very good Constitution Hill. I don't want to mention that name too much. I feel like that's sin currently in the racing world to mention the C word. But look, he's I think not a bad price now, 6 to 5 on. He obviously does come on for his first runs of the season. This is the time to catch him, and seems like Dan and Harry Skelton have really prepped Loderson for this. I think he'll get his ground as well. He likes softer conditions, but I think John Bond just would be too classy in this. I wouldn't be mind to see how Brookie goes. I think Anthony Honeywell's done a great job of making sure this horse can't win another handicap ever again. But I think he would have absolutely swept up about 3 handicaps in a row. But he ran behind Caliph de Burley last year, and he's now been given £14. But he's a very, very nice horse, and they might just be handicapping with him. The ground might be too soft for him as well. But I think he could be the horse that sits off the pace and maybe picks up the pieces. But all in all, John Bond hopefully is too good.
Yeah, first start after wind up for John Bon.
Mm.
How do you see it unfolding, Jake?
Yeah, well, firstly, Ash, what do you think of the wind up for John Bond?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't think it'll be a major wind up. I think it would just be one of those Nicky Henderson in the summer. Let's just get it done because Sandown was a bit disappointing. Like it wouldn't have been major, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree that it's obviously John Bond's race to lose. It's the best renewal of the Schlur that he's had to face over the last 2 years. He's run in 4 runner races, I think they were. This is obviously the best of them. We've got some decent opposition. Obviously, Lotus Sud is a bit of an unknown quantity coming into open company for the first time. Liberty Hunter, as you mentioned, Tom, he's very interesting. Should love any rain that falls. Very talented horse. I don't think we've quite seen the best of him just yet. Then obviously you've got the old favourites, Edwardstone and Matata as well. So very interesting race. I think it is John Bonds to lose, but it will be interesting to see what type of price he drifts out to because I think he is going to continue to drift with people wanting to take him on. Obviously, Liberty Hunter, I think he opens up about 20 to 1 Ante-Post. He's now into 9 to 2 as we're recording. And I'd imagine people will still want to try and back that against him. So it would be interesting to see if we can get some odds against John Bond. I think that would be very much a bet if you can.
Mm. Yeah, that market could be interesting come the day, couldn't it? It really could. And of course, John Bond's not getting any younger. He's 9 years old now, but
Surely,
still.
surely you can't go off odds against. Surely, like this
Well, he
is
might
this
not
is
go off
John.
odds against, but I think he can reach it.
I if I can't like he's 5 to 6 now, I'd be very surprised if he goes much bigger. To be honest, because this is like this is John Bond. Nicky Henson's form's not in a bad way at all.
That's the Schlur. Onto the Grade 2 Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle, which is the 3:30 on Friday. And top of the market, got Heads Up for John McConnell. He ran a mighty race in last year's champion bumper. A great fleet, no drama this end. We only have the one. And Money Garrow kind of towards the top of the market. I'll kick off here. I think that a horse we're going to see running some big races this season is We Only Have the One for Keith Donoghue and Gavin Cromwell. And possibly he can win this after what was a really unlucky fall at Galway last time at the final flight. He was pretty much upsides the eventual winner who was odds on that day, and he looked like he was going to win himself. That was off the back of a pretty impressive victory before that. And I think he's got plenty of class, this horse. And I think that the horse that eventually he was going to beat at Galway last time, I'll Sort That, is a pretty smart one for the Queally team. They do like him, I think, and he was sent off 9-4 on, whereas We Only Have the One with 7-1. So I think they thought that the eventual winner is a pretty good horse. And We Only Have the One, I think, was on the way to beating him. So he'd be my fancy if he turns up for the 3:30 and he's declared for it. So hopefully he will. And I'd be quite confident of him running a big race. Jake, come to you. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I kind of echo those thoughts, really. I mean, I'll start with Heads Up, who obviously heads the market. He was a horse who obviously finished second in the Champion Bumper, was one of the first exciting entries of the season in September when he went to the Stole and won his maiden hurdle. Did that as you'd expect him to do when he was priced at 8-13. Um, this race then became straight on the agenda, and I think kind of psychologically, a lot of people would have gone, "Oh yeah, he's going to come to here and he's going to win it." But if you actually look at what he achieved and what he's done, like We Only Have the One surely is the bet against him at the prices and because of the form, as you mentioned. Like he won his maiden hurdle in even more impressive style to begin with. Then last time when he went to go away to win to go for the novice hurdle, and I thought that was in there. Obviously, I thought he was going to go and win by probably quite far in the end. And what's more on top of that is also that is ended up at Navan this weekend in the Grade 3 for auction novice hurdle, and he's priced up at 10 to 11 favourite to go and win that. So I mean, like that form could be boosted. Obviously, it'll be after the fact, but it looks like he's got a really good chance of picking up a Grade 3 this weekend. And we're talking about a horse here who's currently 6-1 for Cheltenham. I think that's a cracking bet. Keith Donoghue comes over and rides. That is brilliant. And that was the other thing with Heads Up is Sean Bowen was initially jocked up when
Mm.
decks were made, and then now Mark McDonough's on, which I was very confused by because Sean Bowen doesn't have another ride in the race. So yeah, I thought this all leads to We'll Only Have the One. I thought he was a cracking bet here.
Yeah, that's a really good point about Mark McDonough. I guess the only reason I can think of is the owners want him to ride after he rode at Listowel last time. Maybe they're
Maybe,
being,
yeah.
but I mean that's the only thing I can think of because
It
he
is
right.
it is owned by Dara McDonough, so maybe that's family
Ah,
connection. I don't
Yeah.
know,
that would make a lot more sense actually.
but
Right. Well, luckily on this podcast we don't only have the one very good pundit, we have the two. So,
oh,
Ash, what do you think?
that was seamless. I've missed that. I've really, really missed that. I have a question for both of you. Gavin Cromwell, 1 from 58. He was not from
Yeah.
61 before. Who won? Only by night the other day. That has to be a worry, doesn't it, Jake?
Well, I'd also add that John McConnell was 1 from 23, as he traditionally is coming into the November
Yeah,
meeting.
always this time of year.
But yeah, no, the thing that I would have countering that point is the fact that obviously he'd ran, what was it, 19 days ago and was going to go and win by my clock. So I can't imagine there's anything that can happen to this horse in the next 19 days that could then allow trainer form to get in his way, to be
Yeah.
honest. So it wouldn't surprise me as much. Yeah, it wouldn't. Sorry, it wouldn't upset me that much. And the fact that you're getting 6-1, I think compensates it massively anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, he was the one that was first on my list, actually, and I probably one of the first fans I penciled in for the week. Just I've been progressively getting more windy on him, to be honest. Like, trainer form, ground as well, untested on softer than yielding. I don't know, like he just seems like a typical Cromwell horse that just likes to go well around these summerish tracks kind of thing. And maybe this is quite a big test for him, especially on the ground. So I went against him slightly. A heads up. I agree with you, Jake. Don't know about the form of him. I actually had this between the two British runners and in No Drama This End and Great Fleet, to be honest. Like No Drama This End, there'll always be this thing around the Nichols runners first time out, and it's completely just. But like first run for Nichols this season, they're all coming on for their runs. But I'm led to believe this horse done quite a lot of work coming into it. He went away with Caldwell Potter that day. They all went to Newbury, and the day that Caldwell Potter actually had his injury, I think Nico de Boinville rode No Drama This End that day, and he was very, very pleased with how he went. He's a soft ground bumper winner. He's obviously a soft ground bolster point to point winner. Like genuinely, this horse could be anything. Like he really, really could genuinely be very, very good. But it's just the sort of overriding stigma of the Paul Nicholls horses, A, this season, and B, first time out, which would worry anyone. That's fine. But I think 5-1 is not a bad price to have a little bit of a go on this horse. He's beat Kepster Boards as well at Warwick, who I thought was quite an interesting horse this season. I know, I think did Andrew put him up as a horse to follow this season? Or was it Dan that maybe put him up on this podcast? One of the various people on the social media platforms definitely put this horse up as a horse to follow. And I'd almost be leaning towards No Drama This End first time out for my sins. I mean, when will I learn? It's like Josh Station a couple of years ago. When will I learn? Stop backing these Nicholls horses first time out, eh? But I think I'm Ronin.
On to the rest of Friday. Jake, what have you got cooking in the pipeline?
Yeah, just a couple from me. In the opener, A Part de Nom is in there for Harry Skelton. This is going to be a really well-backed horse because it's opened up around 13-2. I can see it going off probably half that price, to be honest. One on its debut at Newton Abbot overheard was beating Maldini Milano. He looks pretty decent. He's won since for Paul Nicholls. And then on his next start, he was second behind Gentleman Debut, where he was trying to give Gentleman Debut £6. So I think that Gentleman's a very, very good horse himself. He was just a big baby going around Newton Abbot and ended up staying on strongly as he'll want to go up and trip. But apart de Nom got two really solid form lines. Only rated 116. Tristan Durrell gets to take off £3 as well. So I think he'll be very well supported. I think he'll be hard to beat as well. This is one for Dan in the 132 at Southwell. One of his handicappers to follow. I thought I'd mention it for him. Daytime Dreaming's in here for Tom Ellis. She looks to be a very well handicapped horse with a mark of 117. They're going straight with fences with her, which I think Dan did talk about staying over hurdles and winning a handicap hurdle. I might have got that wrong, but I think he did mention that. But I wouldn't be upset that she's going over fences. She's obviously already finished second in a point-to-point behind Miami Magic. Yeah, I think she's got really good form. I think she's well handicapped. The 145 at Cheltenham is one that the veterans handicap that's replaced the cross country. I thought the fugitive would just take a massive amount of beating here. He just absolutely loves Cheltenham, doesn't he? He's down to a mark of 145, which is his lowest, and I think I've calculated 2.5 years or something. I did it the other day. I completely forgot to jot that down in my notes, but he loves Cheltenham. Back down to a very realistic mark. Charlie Maggs takes off a further £5 as well. As long as he's on a going day and this is his target, then I think he'll win. Um, the rain obviously is going to help him massively. And then just the last one to mention is in the 4 o'clock. Shade of Winter is in here for Evan Williams and Harry Cobden. Obviously, this is a novices handicap hurdle where loads of them look well handicapped because they've all had basically 2 or 3 runs. But Shade of Winter, he's got form with Julius de Pictons. He's got forms with the Bluesman. He's got form with Royal Rambler, who looks a really nice horse for Emma Lavelle as well. He's off a mark of 114 on his handicap debut. I thought that he was very interesting, especially with Harry Cobden booked.
I mean, that is a sensational run through, and I hope everyone's made notes because no doubt, Fugitive particularly, looking forward to seeing him back. Great stuff, Jake. On to you, Ash, for the rest of Friday.
Yeah, just the one for me in the 4 o'clock. Well, it's two horses technically, but Fergal O'Brien has two very interesting entries in the 4 o'clock: Frontier Prince and Jack Hyde. Jack Hyde, I'm convinced, is well handicapped, but whether he wants this kind of ground this weekend, it would probably put me off enough. And he's sort of carrying top weight as well of 122, even though he is well handicapped. So I might be tempted to just leave him. But Frontier Prince, I thought was very, very good at Chepstow last time out. He beat Cadastral as well at Kempton in a bumper, who's a sort of shaped nicely enough on hurdles debut for Dan Skelton. Looks a pretty decent horse. But Frontier Prince's Chepstow win, beat Louis Veron, beat Matty's Getaway, beat Call Me Legend, beat Fassel. I think that's not a bad piece of form. And there's a horse back in ninth as well, which I'll probably mention later in the video. But Andrew Royal for Tom Lacey and Stan Shepherd's a horse I really, really like this season. And he's actually entered at Cheltenham on Sunday, so I'll give him a shout out in a sec. But I thought Frontier Prince of an opening mark of 118 probably not bad, and he's a soft ground. He's run on soft ground before and ran well and won that Kempton race on soft ground as well. So thought the ground would be okay for him. So he'd be the one that I'd be leaning to in the finale.
Let's move on, shall we, to Saturday. It's the Arkle Trial, Grade 2. Boys, this could be a decent race, couldn't it? July Flower and Burdett Road at the top of the market. Don't have declarations just yet, but if those two stay their ground, it should be a good race. And if Be Aware joins them, it could be a cracker. Ash, straight back to you here. What do you think of it?
Yeah, interesting that Be Aware was entered for the 3 miler, had Harry Skelton jocked up, then had Harry Skelton taken off, be aware for this race, and Harry Skelton's back on, be aware for this race, and he wasn't declared for the Three Mile and is now being declared for the race that Lourdes Sud won last year.
Trying to
Um,
get a bigger price, I reckon.
I just don't think I don't think he's like within the same £10 region as Lourdes Sud. They're saying he's sort of following the same route, having won that Stratford race and then coming here and like he won that Stratford race off the same mark that Lourdes Sud won. So it's sort of like people putting two and two together and getting seven. But I don't think he's as good as Lourdes Sud, to be honest with you. So I'm happy to sort of leave him. He'll get his ground, so that's the one thing I suppose. You're probably getting soft ground for Be Aware. July Flower I think is very very solid. Stepping down in trip, would that be really what she wants? 11 to 8, short enough to find out. I thought Relieved of Duties is an okay price in this. Ran really well behind Alan last time out at Cheltenham. You know, not many people, not loads of people want to follow the race like you data, but I do give it a little bit of a glance here and there. And he jumped really, really nicely at Cheltenham. Basically, like won the race in the jumping department and did it like was given so much to do early on that what he did late on was like sort of making up for lost time kind of thing. Finished second, really nice run. Find it interesting they're coming into here rather than into a handicap because I thought a 139, I think he's officially rated, that would be fine for him. So he's a soft ground. He's ran on soft ground before and ran okay. He's ran a fine race behind Salvatore Mundi last season in the Moscow Flyer. I think Salvatore Mundi is going to be a very, very good horse to follow this season. So I thought Relieved of Duty is coming back over to Cheltenham. If they do obviously declare him for the Saturday, I'd be very interested by him at 8 to 1 in the Arkle Trial.
It's sure to be fast and furious. Jake, what are your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, very interesting. Obviously, July Flower, she was really impressive on her chase debut. Henry de Bromhead said after the race that he wanted to step her back in trip and try that as well. Obviously, she was running over 3 miles in France when she was running so well over there. So, yeah, it's an interesting move. I think she's very solid. She obviously gets the £7 mares allowance. She's rated 145. Loads in her favour. Definitely would have respect. But obviously, the one thing against her here is the price. So I'm happy to let her run. If she drifts out to a backward price, I'll probably cover her off. But I actually really do like Be Aware. I think that he's going to take a bit of beating with all this rain if it does arrive as we expect it to, because I think that he does want it to be a bit more of a stamina test than a speed test. But I was actually really impressed with his chase debut at Stratford. I took him on that day and thought that he potentially wouldn't make up into as nice a chaser. Stepping up in trip to 2.5 miles was a bit of an odd one at that point to me as well. But I thought that he travelled well, jumped well. There was a lot going on in that race. There was like range trying to take on the Alan King horse for the lead, Grand Dame. There was a faller around him, two fallers basically around him as well. So a lot was going on. I thought he did it very professionally. I think going back in trip to this stiff 2 miles is going to be perfect for him. And I thought that he would take a bit of beating. Relieved of Duties is interesting, but he's firmly on my Grand Annual radar. And I'm wondering if that's what connections are thinking as well with him, to be honest. But the other two that are obviously in here, Burdett Road and Brentford Hope. I think it's interesting that they're coming here for their chase debuts, but it wouldn't be what I would be doing with them. I'd give them some low key starts and then see where you land. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see with them.
Okay, good stuff, Jake. Let's move on, shall we, to the big race on Saturday. It's the Paddy Gold Cup. Nice touch that's in memory of Edward O'Grady this year. And at the top of the market, you have two horses, really, a Jaguar and Il Ridotto. And Vincenzo and Panic Attack have also been backed in recent days. So sort of four in single figure prices. I'm going to kick off because I've got my horse, well, at least one of my horses to follow for the season, and that's Bad. And it wasn't very long ago that I said he might well be rated in the 160s coming into the season, and I probably quite rightly got chastised for that. Um, but I do think he's going to be at least one mid 150s come the end of the season. My one worry here, though, is that he hasn't had too many starts going left-handed, and because he's such a quirky individual, he's really clicked going right-handed. He jumps beautifully, but he's never won going left-handed. He's finished second. He's finished second at Southwell, and he's run well at other tracks. But I just worry, given that his best recent form and seemingly turning a corner has come right-handed, I am a little bit scared. I think if he handles it, he'll be bang there or thereabouts. But it's my one slight concern. But yeah, hopefully Bag can run well. I just have my worries about him going left-handed. Jake, what do you think about the big race on Saturday? Big race of the weekend.
Yeah, it is the big race of the weekend, but I think it's a very disappointing field, to be honest with you. We haven't filled it out. There's not that many progressive, exciting horses in here. It's kind of looking like last year's renewal when Il Rodotto went and just was the best handicapped horse in the race and went and won it. Now, this time around, I'd actually be really against Il Rodotto. I've look through his form, and when he carries over t 10 stone 12 in his career, he's never won, and his form figures are absolutely atrocious. I won't read them out because it's quite a long list. But if he carries under 10 stone 12, that's where all his wins have come from. And yeah, the form just looks a lot better. So if you when we're looking at the race now, currently Matata's in there, but he's been declared for the Friday, therefore he's going to come out. Therefore, Il Ridoto is going to have to carry 11 stone 8 pounds, which is
Mm.
actually his second highest weight carrying performance of his whole career, which is actually quite mental. He's never carried more than that. But yeah, so it's just all counting against him. He's only a slight horse. They're not claiming against him. Harry Cobden's on board. I would just be completely against him this time around. Obviously, the rain isn't going to help whatsoever at all. So, yeah, unfortunately, he's had his prep, but I'd be really against him here. Jaguar is the obvious one. He'd be the one that I would be interested in the most. But the problem with him is that he's now going to have to carry 12 stone around, which is not going to be ideal and not what they would have been expecting, from a mark of 148 to be in the Paddy Power off top weight. So, yeah, it's turned into one of those races where, again, I'm just looking for the handicap form lines. And the one that stands out here is the company sergeant because he's got that form with Jaguar from the plate, and he's now better off at the weights with him. So based on that weights and measures, I would be with him. Obviously, the form of the yard isn't great. He's had some runs since that haven't been great, but again, as we previewed this race Ante-Post, and Dan put him up as a horse for the race, and essentially what we were saying is that he's been running at 3 miles and he doesn't stay 3 miles. So they've done that test with him now. They know he doesn't stay 3 miles. He's going to be coming back to 2 mile, 4.5 furlongs at Cheltenham on the old course. And then he's also going to have this rain softened ground, which is hopefully going to help him, make it a little bit more of a stamina stapping test as well. So yeah, whilst I'd love Jaguar, and I probably will end up having something on Jaguar just because of clearly I'm going off his form line here. I think that the bet at the prices is the company sergeant at 12 to 1.
I have to say, I think that is genuine world class analysis. I really do. You're going in there, realizing Matata's not going to run. It's going to raise all the weights of those horses. And Il Ridoto, that stat about him winning when carrying more than 10-12 is such a good stat. I love it. Great stuff, Jake. Wish you the best of luck with the company sergeant. Go on then, Ash. What do you think?
So I like Iridoto in this.
Oh, good. This is why we do it.
I obviously I look at it goes without saying I didn't look at that stat regarding weight carrying. I don't tend to look at racing weights too much. I
No,
tend
I
to
would agree on that. I was just looking because he's such a slight horse and they've mentioned it about him
yeah.
before. That's the only reason I did. I wouldn't, as you said, I wouldn't normally go through that.
No, that's completely fair, and it's a fine point to bring up. But I just in general I don't really look at them, and I sort of look ratings, and if they've been winning off that rating before, like the race must be just a touch worse that they're kind of winning. I agree with Jake. It's not a great race at all. And I think like I was sat in the office earlier this week with Andrew, and we are sort of just going through the races, and we were just like, "Doesn't Iridoto just win this? Like, it's not a great race." Jaguar, like as much as you made the case there, top weight, and also like, did it like what's the big plan for Jaguar this season? Is it the Grand National, or is that what they've got
I
in the
think
back
it'll
of their
be
minds?
if they went and won this, I think they'd be thinking along the Brian Airlines, is what they were saying on Nick Luck the other day. So
Well, that's fair enough. I just like also trainer form for Ollie Green and Josh Carrera isn't great as well. One from
not
26.
great. Yeah.
And like Panic Attack. I I don't know about this horse. He's obviously she's the money horse in the field. Um, I was convinced that they were talking about this horse because didn't this horse used to be trained over in they got trained by David Pipe. I thought they had this in mind for New Year's Day, but it seems like they've had this one prepped for today. I just thought Iridoto was had the prep run at Chepstow, coming into this in much better form, only a pound higher. Obviously, Harry Cobden on board, so not getting the £3 claim of Freddie Gingle as well. But it's a horse who's run on soft ground before. I just want to keep it fairly simple and stick with Iridoto. I thought there was lots of question marks and if buts and maybes about others in the field. Whereas Iridoto, you know that yes, the stats against him regarding carrying the weight and back-to-back wins of the Paddy Power Gold Cup, but he's been there and he absolutely bolstered up last year. So this is one day to be on him. Iridoto is for me.
It's actually, do you know what? I think it encapsulates what is so good about racing and having different opinions. Because you both given very solid arguments, one of you as to why he won't win, one of you as to why he will. And that's what it's all about. It really is. So good on you both. Andrew Blair White is not on this podcast, but good luck to him with Conyers Hill
I was going to
because
say, keep an eye out for this lad. He said it'll hit like drugs. This horse traveling down the hill, double
Oh,
hander, and not finding. But I could see this horse running well to Conyers Hill, just unexposed, isn't
you'll be
he's not
wondering
like.
how he's gotten beat, but he'll get beat.
he?
And good to see that no one's mentioned bad at all.
And there's your winner.
Well, you never know, do you? Um, On to the 330. That's the Paddy Power Intermediate Handicap Hurdle, Class 3. It's attracted, as far as entries are concerned, at least a couple of horses who have really impressed so far in what they've done. Friendship and Julinson, who would be returning from a long break here. Royal Infantry goes for the Skelton team. He'd have to carry a pretty big weight. But you've got a whole host of potential improvers, a clutch of young horses coming into this, plenty on the back of victories or second places. It could be very competitive indeed, usually is. Ash, what do you think about the race?
God, it's a really, really good race. This really, really good race. Like Durantian, French Sip, Royal Infantry, Bowen's on fire. Like some solid horse in there. Tony Martin has got like 9 in here or something silly. I thought it was a good contest, and I'm interested in the fact that say difference, as in the French spelling for it is different for Sam Thomas and with Dylan Johnson in the plate was a very interesting runner in here. I thought they were going to be going for the boys race, but
He
instead
didn't
they
get in.
didn't get in. Coming here instead, they basically thought that the boys race is the big target. This is the one. Didn't obviously get in. Coming here, number 24 on the list, max 20. It's going to be touch and go. And even if he did run and then the top weights came out, he'd still be £3 out of the handicap. But Dylan Johnson claims free off anyway, so I don't think that'd be too much of an issue. Just very unexposed. 2 handicap runs, 2 wins. That has been plotted towards this meeting, and Sam Thomas's yard are going well. I think the softer ground will really suit him. I'd be quite keen on say different here for Sam Thomas.
Yeah, well, hopefully he gets in. That would
Yeah,
be nice, wouldn't it? It really would be.
yeah.
My thoughts are that I think Friendship hasn't finished improving yet. Thought he won really easily last time. I know he's got an £8 rise. I think he might be up to that. And the advantage with him is as well that he does go in soft ground. So if the rain comes, then he should be at home. I think he's a pretty solid horse in that race. I know he's second favourite, but I think he'll go well. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You look through the running order. We're talking about Premier handicaps, Grade Two, novice chases, novice hurdles, and this is a Class Three. And yeah, it's probably one of the best races on the weekend. Like it's
Yeah.
such a good race. I'm going to keep on calling him Durancon just to piss off that one guy in the comments. But Durancon, like I think he wins this, and I think he's such a progressive, exciting horse. Um, Obviously, the problem with him is that he's been absolutely smashed in Ante-Post already. So I can't really see him getting much shorter than the 3-1 he currently is, because as we just said, the race is so good. Um, it's kind of deserting Friendship with you know trepidation really, because I think Friendship is a very nicely handicapped horse himself. But the fact that they were both going to go for the silver trophy, I think was the initial plan. Obviously, Droncon didn't end up running there. Obviously, that day, Friendship would have been getting, I think, £6 off of him. Oh, sorry, £4 off of him. And now, obviously, Durancon's the one getting the £4 because of that Cheltenham win, which obviously was very impressive. But I think it would just swing me back into Durancon's camp for this. But yeah, very interesting race. Obviously, Royal Infantry. I think he looks like he's going to turn up here. That horse I mentioned earlier, Royal Rambler's in here. I don't know if he's going to get declared or not. Such a good race, but I do really like Duranchon, and I really hope that he progresses into a really nice horse this season. Especially just stepping up the trip as well. He's never stepped up beyond 2 miles before, and that's what he's always been crying out for. So this is an ideal starting point over 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, very fair thoughts, I have to say, boys, both of you. It would be nice, wouldn't it, if David Pipe had a proper horse this year to go to war with. It would be just lovely to see, really. Right, Jake, straight back to you. Anything else for Saturday?
Yeah, a few again in the opener, the Grade Two juvenile hurdle, the Triumph Trial. Parchmont's in here for David Pipe. He's backed into favourite now, 3-1, or joint favourites with Precious Man. They're both French recruits. Parchment gets £2 off Precious Man because Precious Man won what they deem as a Class 1 in France, whereas he won what's deemed as a Class 2 in France. So they both carry penalties, but I'd be with Parchment of the pair. I think he's a very exciting horse, and David Pipe is talking about him as a Triumph hurdle horse. Hallelujah U's obviously in there as well. Doesn't have a penalty, but he's never jumped a hurdle in public before. And as much as his classy flat horse, this is going to be quite a testing hurdles debut, especially with the ground. So yeah, Parchment would be me for me in the opener. Um, Later on in the card as well at Cheltenham, before I go elsewhere, the 3 mile handicap hurdle. I thought that Gowl Road was just a massive price at 20 to 1. Like he ran an absolute stinker at the October meeting, but as the commentator said in running, Santos and Davis is riding him like he's stolen him. So I think you can kind of tell what kind of ride he got that day. Did far too much. It's been dropped £2 for the pleasure. Obviously, his record at Cheltenham is just impeccable, really. When it won the Grade 2 hurdle, the Cleve hurdle in January. That was on soft ground, so he's going to like the conditions. And he always seems to come on for his first start of the season. His second, if you look at RPRs, his second RPR of the season is always better than his first. So I think that would be in his favour here. Obviously, you've got to get over the run that he had last time, which was horrendous. But I think he'll be a horse who handles the ground and it looks quite good. Then away from that, Weatherby, the 2 o'clock Copey's in there. He's a horse that I put up as a handicapper to follow. Sorry, not a handicapper to follow. One of my eye catches a couple of weeks ago. I thought he jumped impeccably on his chase debut, and he looks very nice. So Copey would be a bet in that 2 o'clock, and then the 3:43. Don't know if she's going to run, but that's nice. Has entered up for Nikki Henderson. She's a mare who would be going chasing here in a handicap if she did run. I think she's really well handicapped. I think chasing is going to be the making of her. She's a point-to-point winner. And yeah, as I said, I don't know if she runs, but if she did, should definitely be a bet.
Great stuff, Jake. That is Saturday comprehensive from you. What about you, Ash? Anything for the big day?
I'll echo that shout on Kopi. That horse surely is one of the best handicapped horses in the country of 119. For the same man, Warren Greattricks, Heracles Westwood is in the amateur jockeys 3 miler or 3 mile one, I should say, at Cheltenham on Saturday. Be quite keen on him. Finian Maguire is booked first run or first ride for Warren Greattricks. Just an unexposed horse, I think. Still, like was disappointing towards the back end of last season, but that was in the National Hunt Chase, and then went over to Punchtown for a competitive handicap chase there. I think that I know that Warren Greattricks said to me at Windsor last year that they're going to go to the National Hunt Chase, and this horse goes really, really well fresh. So if we can, we're going to run him first time out, or sort of first time out after a break in the National Hunt Chase. Then there was the worry that he was running off 129 only, and they not sure if they're going to get into the National Hunt Chase. They ran him at Newbury, finished for a disappointing run, then went to the National Hunt Chase, a non-fresh horse, still ran for 129, so he got in anyway. And Harry Cobden was booked. I think that was a bit of an eye-catching booking that day, and just ran no kind of race. Coming back to Cheltenham, I think I'd like to see him have another go around here. Going in fresh is going to be a great angle for him, and he's a soft ground winner, so I think he'll like the ground. Heracles Westwood.
Sunday we have another cracking card at Cheltenham and at Navan. Going to go to Cheltenham first, the 255, the Oddschecker Handicap Chase. It's a Premier handicap. And my question to you, Ash, is because top of the market we've got Protectorat, we've got Beauport up there, Marble Sands, Tanganyika. My question to you is, do you think it's a bit of an odd starting point for the season for Protectorat? He's got an absolutely enormous weight in this. And it's a trip that he's never tried before, a pretty strenuous trip. It's likely to be soft ground. For a horse having a first run for 226 days, it seems a bit of a slightly left field approach for me.
I don't think it's odd in the sense that I know why the Skeletons are doing it. It's not his conditions, but I know why they're doing it, and that's ultimately just to get a run into him. Like that is what they're going to be doing. He's a 10-year-old now. He's not the type of horse they can go pitch up to a Betfair Chase first time out and have him off for his absolute life kind of thing and go and win. He does need that run. He's a big enough horse kind of thing. So I think this is just the only race. They want to run him on soft ground as well. So they had to wait for the ground. And this is kind of the race for him because it's a class one handicap. You can get in off these really, really lofty weights and you'll probably not be chucking too many horses out of the handicap kind of thing. So it's mental how Beauport's in here for 154 and he's got 11.3 or he's going to have 11.3 on the weekend. I thought this horse would be a perennial top weight for all of his life until he finally gets down to 125 or something like that. But he seems to be getting enough a nice racing weight. I thought it was a really, really difficult contest, to be honest with you. I've actually thought that Sam Brown was a big price. I know it's sort of like, again, another old horse, but he's 13. He's off 155. He's got a nice, I know we've been talking about racing weights, but it's applicable for this one because he usually carries quite lofty weights if he goes into handicaps. He's now sort of in that middling 11.4 and Chad Beaumont, is that how I say his surname, is claiming 7. So if there's a time that this horse is really, really good, and he hasn't really been showing too many signs in recent years of really stopping. Like he was disappointing at Aintree, but he goes well enough first time out. He ran the Charlie Hall last year. That was a big run behind the Real Whacker and Brave Man's Game, and ahead of Hang In There. Dropping into this company, Honeyball's in great form. Softer grounds, no issue. I thought Sam Brown, there's a case to be made, but it wasn't anything strong because it's not the type of race I tend to do well in, to be honest.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, Sam Brown, the old boy, one of the few old boys in this race.
Mm.
Unfortunately deserting Marble Sands for this race. I don't think I like the ground. Um,
Finally.
yeah, had to happen at some stage. But a bit of a shame because yeah, I just don't think he'll be at home in the ground at all, really. Tanganyika is interesting, I think. Venetia, obviously, her string hasn't really fired yet. I know that
Mm.
she's had a couple of winners, Jello in particular, of course, but they've not really started coming to fruition. But at the same time, she still has had winners. So Tanganyika is interesting on his return. Last year, of course, in the Uttoxeter Midlands National. So the one thing we know about him is that he will stay. He'll like the ground as well if it does get soft. He's won in heavy before, so he's got a couple of things in his favour. He's carrying a higher mark than he did at the end of last season, but he looks a real progressive type. Remember, he's only a 7-year-old, so there should be plenty more to come this season. So I think of those more lightly raced or lesser exposed sorts in the race, he's definitely the most interesting. It's just whether he's firing to full cylindrical capacity on this return, but we shall see. I think he's the most interesting runner in that race myself. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I can see the case for Tanganyika, as you said, Venetia Williams for stable form and not fully firing yet would be the thing to put me off. But at the same time, at some point, it will just all click and she will suddenly be winning everything. So you might be going a weekend too soon. It normally is that Ascot weekend next weekend, isn't it? Ascot and Haydock, normally where she
You can
starts
almost set your clock
smashing
by
in.
it.
Literally, yeah. So maybe it's a couple of days too soon, but yeah, no, he would be very interesting if you knew that he was fit and ready to go. The one I'm all over here is Beauport because, as Ash mentioned, he doesn't have to carry that top weight. He's carrying 11 stone free. One rated 154. I think he's absolutely made for a race like this. Free at Cheltenham is going to be perfect for him. Obviously, he absolutely bolted up Ascot last season in the 3-5 Berkshire National. I think it was the first running of the race, wasn't it? He won by 31 lengths. Absolutely just trounced them all. Obviously, he got fairly well harshly treated for that, as you'd expect for winning so far. He went up from a mark of 144 up to 156, but he's back down to 154 now, having ran in the Grand National, where Santos and Day was actually quite happy with his run. He said that he just was basically too keen and did too much with him too soon. So you've heard that story before with the Skeletons, haven't you? But yeah, no, I thought he was very good. His second in the grade two, sorry, his third in the grade one long walk hurdle, and then obviously second in the grade two at Haydock shows that he's got plenty of ability. He's going to love the bog that I'm expecting by the time we get to Sunday. I think it's going to be really, really hard work out there. Free around Cheltenham is not going to be easy to get for any of these. But I think Beauport is the one, and yeah, he'd be the one I'm with around 6-1.
Okay, on to the big race on Sunday. It's the Unibet Greatwood Handicap Hurdle. Always a big field for this, always very competitive. You're looking for a horse who's well ahead of his mark. Could be Alexi, top of the market. Winner last time, Brendan Powell, Joe Tizard, certainly going the right way. But there's loads of others in there snapping at his heels. Welsh champion hurdle winner Celtic Dino, Gibbs Island, etc., etc. Jake, straight back to you for this. What do you make of the renewal in general this year?
Not the best, but it's competitive. I think it's you can make a case for a lot of these, but I don't think any of them are superstars, if you know what I mean, or going to turn into graded horses afterwards. I think the one who could do that is Celtic Dino, but I'm just so skeptical he's going to run with the amount of rain that's forecast. I think it's
Mhm.
nigh on impossible that they'll actually run him because, yeah, they've said before, no, they're not even going to bother anymore if the ground turns that way. So I'd imagine that he'll be a non-runner. Alexi again, shown all his form on better ground. Mirabad has shown all his form on better ground. Gibbs Island has shown most of his form on better ground. I think you are struggling to find a fancied horse in here who's going to want an absolute bog and stamina test that it could end up being. Obviously, this is speculation. It might not end up being as much rain as we're expecting, but it seems like it's going to be at this stage. So the horse I thought was really interesting, if he did come this way instead of the race on Saturday, is Bowen's on Fire, because I think that he does stay further. He does he does act on soft ground. I think that if it turned into a real stamina test, he'd be the one who's staying on at the finish, as he does in pretty much all of his races. He sometimes finds himself too far back and then ends up staying on. That might be exasperated here with Mirabad in the field. I think they're going to go from the front on him like they did when they won the race in December last year. They just absolutely bolted out in front, didn't he? And no horse got anywhere near him. That might be the downside to playing a horse like Bones on Fire because he doesn't seem to do any of his hard work until the end of the race. But if he is in contention coming down to the last, I can see him flying up that hill. And, he's around 20 to 1, 16 to 1 type price. I think if he did come here, he'd be very interesting for Gordon Elliott. Away from that, I thought Laffey was quite interesting. He's only had the two starts, but it's hard to say how well handicapped he is off a mark of 138. It's a very, very tricky race, but as I said, I'd be happy to play Burns on Fire if he does to get declared.
Okay. Interesting that, Jake, I have to say. I'm going to go and say this is my best bet of the weekend in this
Ooh.
race, which is quite strong. And no one's going to be very interested in that, but I'm going to
Get the
say it
notepads at the ready.
anyway. Given the ground and given the likely weather forecast, if it comes up soft or worse, I think Castle Carrick for Alan King is a massive
Yeah,
player in this race. I really do. He's only had four starts, obviously very unexposed. He won his bumper on good ground back in the end of November 2024, but he was just easily the best horse that day. It could have been any ground and he would have been fine. He would have won easily. Uh, then he went from Nicky Richards to Alan King. He bolted up in a Sandown novice hurdle, beating none other than Diva Luna. And obviously that form has worked out really well. He did it very easily indeed. Loved the ground that day. Went to Kelso after that for the Premier Novice, and then entry after that for the top novices hurdle over 2 miles four, and the Turners, sorry, Mersey, and he just didn't quite have the pace to lay up with them over that under those conditions in that type of ground. It was good and good to soft. He's a son of Marler, and usually the offspring of Marler handle soft and heavy ground very well indeed. And I think that's probably what he wants. The other thing is, I think he's really well handicapped of 133 because on what he showed earlier in his career, I think that mark's going to be well in range for him at some stage. The Alan King form has been pretty strong so far this season. He's sort of gone off the boil a touch in the last week or two, but generally he's been in really good form coming back in this season. And I just think off a mark 133, if you look at it from a handicapping perspective, he beat Diva Luna easily. She is rated at 133 now. So just on a line through her alone, he is well handicapped. And given the state of the ground, given there might not be too many who really want to go through it at the top of the market, I think he's a really big player, an improving 6-year-old. Even though he's returning from a break, he'll be prime for this. Ash, what do you reckon? Glad to see you nodding there. It's given me a nice
I,
boost.
I don't mind the case at all. He's a really unexposed horse, and like you said, that form with Diva Luna, 133, very unexposed. He was definitely in my calculations. Very similar to what Jake said. I won't go over it about the market leaders in the ground. If I was to take, I think Alexi and Mirabad might be okay. Alexi was a German flat horse and was running on sort of softer ground, so maybe could be okay. Mirabad, as much as he has been kept to good ground, I don't think he like necessarily needs it as such. And it seems like Dan Skelton's got him absolutely prepped for this. I also like the trainer upgrade as well from the good doctor and Jamie Insol's Dan Skelton. That definitely has to have some play on it. So I could see the case of them too. But the one I was the most solid on right now at this current stage is Serious Challenge for Fergal O'Brien and Johnny Burke. Went to an entry race last time over 2.5 miles, a race that they tend to win with Camsonas and Crambo going back just only 2 years now. Very unexposed horse. Jake, you put up Bowens on Fire. Serious Challenge did beat Bowens on Fire by 9 lengths at Air. Did it quite nicely as well, to be honest, on heavy ground. Went to Southwell and beat John Barber again. Not a bad horse. Came out and won a handicap hurdle this season. Looked really nice over 2.5 miles at Plumpton on soft ground. I think this horse does stay 2.5 miles if he needs to, and if he gets into a battle, he does find. I just hope this has been a sort of horse that's going slightly under the radar that has got a great chance in what is a big race, the Greatwood Hurdle. Being slightly backed was 25 to 1. I can see on the screen now 12s, 8s in places. So maybe I'm very much late to the train here, but I thought he was very unexposed. They fancied him quite strongly in the championship final last year, 128, running off 127 this weekend. Soft ground's fine for him. I was actually, the more I talk about Serious Challenge, the more I get sweeter and sweeter on him, to be honest. So, I think there's a lot going for him, and 12 to 1's not a bad price if you can still get it. Tens is a fine price as well.
at
I
least
can
you
see as
convince
you,
yourself.
yeah, I can see as you continue to articulate, the more and more confident you became there. Great to see a man with a conviction of his own words. That's Cheltenham covered. We're going to do one race from Navan. It's the Troytown on Sunday. It's a proper race, as it always is. Very competitive handicap. You go through the first 7 or 8 in the market. Key de Bourbon, Will the Wise, High Class Hero, Sporting in the Park, Better Days Ahead, Answer to Cafe, a spur at the moment. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, we just wanted to cover. Obviously, Navan's got a great festival this weekend as well. Obviously, it doesn't have as many Ante-Post races that we can cover. Be great to see Kopek de Boer make his chase debut. I think Final Demand might make his as well. That would be really interesting. Brighter Days Ahead is entered in both those races. Could get some really good action at Navan. So make sure you're watching the screens between Cheltenham if you can. Obviously, yeah, the Troy Town one in here that I'm just in love with is Will the Wise for Gavin Cromwell. Obviously, I put him up as an eye catcher a few weeks ago, kind of thinking that maybe that the spring would be the type of time to catch him for a handicap like this, but they've really drilled him to get him into a handicap this soon in his career. He's had the 4 chase starts already. Obviously, a couple were the back end of last season. Now had a couple at Galway this season. First time up was second behind Old Man Dingle. He's won a grade 3 since. Then he went and won it quite nicely. I think it was when the October meeting was on, actually, on his last start, where he beat Prens Garde-Trois. I think he's just a really well handicapped horse off 136. Like, I think if he was running in Britain, the handicapper would give him an absolute walloping compared to his Irish mark. So, yeah, 136, been absolutely laid out for the race. I think he's got a cracking chance. Better Days Ahead is obviously interesting as well, but he does have to carry top weight, would be the one downside to him. But Gordon Elliott does love this race, so he wouldn't be too far away from calculations. But yeah, Will the Wise, looking forward to seeing him.
Will the Wise for Jake the Wise. What
Hmm.
about you, Ash? What are you going to go for?
I completely sort of saw the case with Will the Wise, to be honest, and very similar reasoning in the fact that if Cromwell decided to come over for a handicap chase in the UK, would probably be rated 140 kind of thing, and then running off 136 here, just like still unexposed. Will the Wise has still got plenty of improvement to go, so I completely echo Jake's comments there.
Yeah, Will the Wise, strong selection for the podcast. I think might be the only selection that you've agreed on, actually, over the course of the last
That's never a good
hour or
thing.
so. Well,
It's
every
not
now
like
and then
having
we
Dan
get.
on, is it?
Yeah, well, I know. I was going to say every now and then we get Dan and Jake agreeing. It happens quite often, actually. We all kind of rejoice. So yeah, good to hear that we've got a similar selection for you two. Will the Wise, excellent stuff. Ash, going to hand it straight back to you. Anything else for Sunday?
Um, the 2.5 mile Lives non-handicap chase is the race that I thought Double Powerful was going to go for, but isn't. So I've slightly changed up and gone for Jordan's Cross for Honeyball favourite in this. But I just thought again, like unexposed profile, won nicely at Aintree last time out over 2. Wouldn't mind stepping up in trip. Ground should be fine. He's won a soft ground point to point, and hurdles runs were done on sort of good soft ground as well. Just think he's the classic Anthony Honeyball improver. So I thought Jordan's Cross could go well in the 145 and the 220 is a 2 mile handicap chase. It's a proper class 3. It's not like there's any class 2 or graded horses masquerading in here. Tornio for Jamie Snowden, very interesting. Was a nice progressive horse last season. Won at Chepstow in March. He's up £6 since then. Didn't look like £6 would have stopped him at Chepstow that day. Just for 5-year-olds, so still really on that improving streak. Was sent off 2-1 to win to beat Asla Pasta at Ayr last season. This was when every single Dan Skelton runner that left the yard was on a good day, shall we say, and Asla Pasta bolted that day. Tornio was running a fine race and then fell. Had a run at Weatherby this season to blow the cobwebs off. I think there's a lot to come from Tornio, and I read Stable Tour somewhere that suggested, well, it said from Jamie Snowden that he'll have a big year. So he's rated quite lowly. I think he's still in the 120s, I think, off the top of my head. I think he's still got a great chance to go and continue in handicaps. So Tornio for me about 12-1 of 122.
Lovely stuff, Ash. That's Sunday for you. What about you, Jake? Anything for the big day on Sunday?
Yeah, I'll just go through a couple quickly. In the maiden hurdle that starts the card at Cheltenham on Sunday, the 115, I thought the Brass Door was quite interesting in here. As I mentioned a few times now, I think it's going to be really testing by the time we get to Sunday, so it's only a 2 mile trip. But I think that you want a horse who can stay a bit further than that. Brass Door was a neck second to On Sonza La Vie in his point to point. He then went and ran in a bumper at Fontwell and finished second behind Fountains Blenheim, who runs on Friday. Actually, is quite an interesting runner at about 16-1 for Anthony Honeyball, having bolted up in his maiden hurdle since. So yeah, I thought Brass Door would be quite interesting in that one. And then in the 145, quite a strong bet now that I'm looking at it more and more is Jigs Forge for
Mm.
Ben Pauling. I think that he's a horse who's going to absolutely love it. The more rain, the better for him. I think he wanted an absolute bog. He did that on his maiden hurdle. Sorry, in his point to point, he won on heavy. Then in his maiden hurdle, he won a really testing soft ground at Foss last, beginning of last season. His season kind of fell apart a tiny bit after that, but they aimed him really high. They went to Doncaster in a Grade 2 where he was down the field, finishing fourth. But then he finished sixth in the Albert Bartlett, which was actually quite a nice performance. And I think the Albert Bartlett's going to work out beautifully with all these chasing types that were running in it. We've already seen Mashantu bolt up over hurdles, who's behind. Bendingo is going to be a good chaser, who's only just touched off. I think that's going to work out quite well. Finished the season at Perth. I think Ben Pauling said that he never really quite had him right last season after his debut. So I think that going chasing is going to be the making of him. Ben Pauling is in absolutely flying form at the moment, so he's going to have him ready to go. A la Diva Luna, a la Fine Casting today. All these types of horses are going and winning over fences. Bad, Twig. He's managing to pull off absolute magic tricks right now. He's got his horses ready. Jigsforge is off 132 on handicap chase debut. I think he's going to take all the beating.
Yeah, lovely argument made as always, Jake. Lads, thank you very much. Been a lot of fun this week. We're going to leave it there. Next week on the Jump Show, we're going to be previewing the Betfair Chase, the big race up at Haydock. Please do like and subscribe. 200 likes would be great this week. And thank you very much for watching. We've got a lot of ground this week, and we'd love to hear from you. So do comment down below with your best bets for the weekend at either Cheltenham or Navan, or indeed somewhere else. Until next week, so long.